Welcome back to CLI's Legalpreneurs Spotlight Future 50 series. In the series, we're showcasing thought leaders and doers in legal innovation, legal tech, and AI all around the world. I'm joined today by Abdi Shayeste, the founder and CEO of AltaClaro. Abdi and his team are reimagining legal education. We're going to chat about that today, and particularly how AltaClaro is leading the way in digital literacy education in and for the legal industry. Thanks so much for joining me from NYC today, Abdi. Absolute pleasure to have you here and a huge welcome.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to have this conversation. It's a privilege and honor to be on your show. So thank you for having me.
I can hardly wait to get into this, actually, because you're just doing so many amazing things. But I wanted to kick off first by just getting a little bit of background about you. So I guess what led you to create AltaClaro and really how that's become, or you've used that to focus your work in legal digital literacy education as well. So over to you. Tell us a bit about you.
Yeah, this journey has been an interesting one for me. I've had a legal career, and I'll talk about that in a minute, where really this idea behind this company came about. But I've been an entrepreneur, as we talked a while ago, since I was 17. I had my first startup then. This is my third startup. Very grateful for things that have come up in my life that have led me to take on something like a startup. But the first one was when my parents lost my college savings in a banking scandal, and that forced me to start a company in college when I was 17. Very grateful for that, although it was painful at the time in figuring out my way. But that startup ended up financing my education. It was a clothing company, and I served all the organizations on campus, on college, by doing all their clothing, the memorabilia, the silk screening, and all the fun stuff the organizations and events have over and over again. So I built that from me to 10 people over a four-year period. And very grateful for that experience. Paid for my education, and I sold it, as I shared with you, because my mom said, as immigrants, we didn't come to this country for you to be a salesperson. You got to be a lawyer.
Do the law, young man. Do the law.
Yeah. Either the law or become a doctor or an engineer. And so, I chose the law and sold the company, and I moved to Silicon Valley and went to Santa Clara. Yeah. Because I figured, they're in the middle of being there in 1998 of all the tech entrepreneurship that was emerging. And I figured I'll be the lawyer for entrepreneurs if I can't be the entrepreneur. And what a great experience that was. And shortly after I graduated from law school, I found myself in my second startup, which was one of the first bank technologies, or what we call fintech companies today. We were one of the first B2B internet mortgage companies, and I initially joined them to take care of their legal matters. And then I moved on from head of legal to head of business development. We grew the company from 4 people to 100 people. I became CEO of that company, and was very grateful for that experience at the age of 28, 29, and sold that company to our client, a large broker dealer. And that was a great experience as an entrepreneur, in seeing how you can solve a pain and grow a company and innovate, leveraging technology, especially in businesses that are late adopters in technology, laggards. And that's what financial institutions were back then. And as we'll talk about similarities in the legal industry later on. But then I moved out to New York, and really my legal career started. I was a lawyer at the Federal Reserve here in New York, and then I went and joined a large law firm, global firm, King and Spalding, became a deal lawyer there, and doing all kinds of corporate and banking transactions. And eventually I went and became in-house lawyer, deputy general counsel at MUFG Bank of Tokyo. And it was 10 years or almost 15 years of practicing. And that's when I really started focusing on this pain that I experienced both as a young lawyer and a senior lawyer. And that was this lack of training inside law firms, and associates graduating from law school, not really having the practical skills. And you had to get lucky to have someone mentor you to explain things, because the apprenticeship model had withered away, as you know. And so I thought, geez, as a young lawyer, I got lucky. Someone down the hall showed me the way and showed me things. And then and I thought, well, geez, why should my success be dependent on luck alone? Not all my colleagues had that access and deal flow, and that impacted their development. And deal flow can happen due to where you are physically in the office, or which office. It can also happen based on unconscious bias. Same people, the same deals over and over again, and a lot of diverse and women lawyers get left out, and they get stuck and pigeonholed on the grunt work of things. So I saw that firsthand, and then years later, when I thought I'd be a really good mentor because I wanted to help others, I found the challenge of training young lawyers, taking time away from billing and creating business development and doing my legal law firm practice management things. Very difficult to try to sit down and train people the right way.
Yeah.
Because you can't teach this stuff by putting people in front of videos, right, or presentations.
Yeah.
And then when I went in-house, I really saw the pain, because I would see the bills. I would see associates spending 10 hours on reviewing my NDA. Wow. And I had to always try to write that time off. And that's when I really said, geez, this fantasy of tackling this problem can be a reality, especially as I started looking at the digital transformation that was happening in the education world in other sectors, where you have these upskilling and transformative learning happening outside of the universities or in partnership with universities for things like how to become a digital marketer, or how to become a software developer. And there are pathways for people to really learn practical skills. Geez, this doesn't exist in the legal world. And anyway, that was the impetus behind starting AltaClaro.
Yeah, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. But I mean, in a way, the best businesses often come from that deep history of, that you have brought to this with law and entrepreneurship and whatever. It's almost like if you hadn't had that history, you probably couldn't have arrived at the point that you have now. It was an essential part of the journey, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, I saw the pains, and then I had this background as an entrepreneur, and then I missed being an entrepreneur, and I wanted to get back. I had to go back to the fundamentals of being an entrepreneur, incubate this idea. I was part of Founder Institute incubation program, joined the Start Ed, which is an ed tech acceleration program, and really focused on getting to MVP, testing it out, getting feedback, finding the pain points, and creating a solution that matched the market and creating market fit, and eventually getting to a place where we were selling, and then we had to scale it. I had some background, but I learned a lot in this journey. Every phase is a new level. But yes, that pain firsthand helped me a lot in going through this journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you'd experienced it yourself. It's just so critical. I wanted to talk about one of your more recent collaborations. I know there are many, but I'm going to choose one of them. And this is the one that got a lot of press as well, and quite deservedly. And that's the work that you've recently done with Oric and some of their education programs that you developed for summer associates. That, and as I say, quite rightly, got press all around the world and picked up all around the world. But I wanted to ask you, firstly, how did that collaboration come about? But also specifically, tell us a little bit about those programs, talking about the one particularly in prompt engineering and responsible AI. Share with us how you designed it, developed it, and ultimately delivered the program as well.
Yeah, happy to talk about that. And it's interesting. As the company became successful, and this is part of the journey which led to the collaboration. We back when we started, we had 5 classes in corporate transactional work. And today we have over 40 that cut across corporate, M&A, capital markets, technology transactions, real estate, all of these transactional focused practice areas, and now moving into litigation. We've also grown from back then with 3 AmLaw 200 clients. Today we have over 60. We've penetrated over 30% of the AmLaw 200.
Fabulous.
Very grateful for this trajectory. And one of our early adopter clients, which we'll talk about, early adopters in the legal industry, versus the
laggards.
Yeah, exactly. Was Oric. Oric, was client number 4 for us back then, 3 years ago, where they piloted one of our programs, and we got really good feedback with our programs. And then from there grew, expanded across courses and practice areas for the firm. And Oric eventually became one of our biggest clients in the AmLaw 100. And so much that last year we had a venture capital financing event, and one of our investors was Oric's venture arm.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, very grateful. We also have LearnStart, which is one of the initial ed tech VCs behind Coursera, as well as Bryce Catalyst, the legal tech VC. And so this trifecta emerged with Oric, where now our client partner also invested in us. And the partnership has been very collaborative in that we get feedback, as we do with all of our clients, about what they want. So one of the initiatives before this course, just to give you an example, it always starts with what their clients want. It always starts, how can they make their service better for their clients? And leveraging training for that is one key component where we fit into their puzzle. And so they had approached us last year, a year and a half ago, about having a course on technology transactions, basically the world of tech transactions, whether it's hardware development, software development, apps, SaaS agreements, these things that most of their clients will have, and they have to deal with across practice areas. So whether it's corporate or IP or litigation, or even their staff, they got to know what their clients, deal with. And so we created a course that just covered the gamut of technology transactions. And they had, almost 200 associates take it, associates and their data analytics team, because they wanted them to understand what types of businesses their clients have, so that they're more efficient. And so that became a success for us, became a success for them. And eventually we grew out more classes in that program. So this came in a similar vein where Wendy Butler, their Chief Innovation Officer, literally, we have lunch often, and we were spitballing, as she says, about ideas. We've been thinking of courses that go beyond substantive areas, and in particular, classes and courses that help with the workflow and leveraging digital tools and technologies, especially because that's where they're going. And again, they're client focused, client centric, in how they can have their entire staff use these tools to make their workflow more efficient for clients. So she after we met, I think the next day or the day after, something like that, she literally sent me an email at 6 a.m. said, "I have an idea. Let's hop on." And of course, we talked, and the idea was creating a course that teaches their attorneys, whether associates and even legal professionals who are not attorneys, how to use the AI tools. And we need to do it quickly, as always. But they wanted to get it out to their summers so that they have a chance to test it out. We get some feedback, which is the way we like to work, and even iterate before they deploy it to a larger scale. And they're on the cutting edge, so why not also leverage this in letting the world know that their summer associates had an opportunity to learn something really cool. So we dove in, and by we, my co-founder Julie Ryan, our chief learning officer, and she's great. She, in addition to her 20 years of practice, and she worked in big law, and she was a partner at a firm, and she was an associate professor of lawyering skills at USC. She's written a book on experiential learning, which is the backbone of our courses. She currently teaches at Georgetown, and she had already been using AI tools and ChatGPT in her workflow since November of 2022. And she was figuring out ways to use it for legal tasks and non-legal tasks. And so right away, we assembled a team of experts, as we do with all of our courses, vetted practitioners. In this case, we found a former partner who teaches at USC lawyering skills, who's been using AI tools in her practice. We also brought an AI prompt engineering expert who's been doing it on the video game side of things. And we had it also instructional designer, as we do in all of our course development. We got lucky that one of our instructional designers has also been using AI tools for the last year and attending conferences on the cutting edge of this stuff. So that team, in conjunction with our editorial and production team that Julie leads, really focused in on creating this course in a short amount of time. But there were some things that we developed, we realized right away in our conversations with Oric and others, that one, we wanted to create a course that was platform neutral. That because many firms are testing out different tools, Harvey and Co-Counsel and so forth. Each of those vendors have their own training for that tool, but we wanted to create a course that was neutral and that you can learn the language to use in any tool, with any tool, right? And also practice neutral. So whether you're a litigator or a transactional lawyer or a legal professional that's not an attorney, you can benefit from this. And leverage it and use it in a safe and ethical way. Really focus was on becoming aware of its power, but also becoming aware of its limitations. And foundationally, as we do with all of our courses, learning the whys and hows of what we're doing as we're using these tools, so that when any use case or any platform comes our way, we have the critical thinking skills to take on these things. So that was sort of our guiding principles. And of course, in those limitations, we all know now about its ambiguity that can be created, and misinterpretation, hallucinations, drifting, privacy issues, all those things, how to build that in the course and learn by doing. And so that's our expertise, where our courses, you truly learn by doing and working and getting feedback on the simulated work product that you work on in our classes. So those were the guiding principles. The framework was this: you watch an hour and a half of bite-sized videos, as with all of our classes. In between the videos, there's some assessments and some practical exercises. In this case, it was, okay, now let's take ChatGPT and practice with some fake fact patterns and a fake assignment, and then see what the output is. And then let's put some more input in it to fine tune it. And then, of course, there's a doing part at the end of the course where they get a full blown assignment. And there's choices you can have, whether you're a transactional lawyer or litigator or non-attorney legal professional, to work on something. And it's a 2-hour self-paced assignment. Draft a partnership agreement based on this term sheet, or draft a research memo based on these facts. Use the AI tool to iterate. And you work on this assignment, you submit it in the portal, and then you get ready for a third component, which all of our classes have, and that's a live review session. And we run it in small cohorts of 10. So even when we have hundreds of associates, we'll break it up into 10 cohorts of 10. And that's important because we believe that you still need the human element in the learning journey. You can't learn this stuff in a vacuum and sitting in your desk alone. And especially this type of course where we talk about the inputs and the outputs and the variances that come out of it. And you talk about it in this session with a facilitator who's an expert. So we followed that traditional format that we had here, and it's turned out to be a great course. It's a great course for those, as a partner told us, you're at level 1, not level 0, level -1.
Sure.
Yeah, where you want to understand the world of AI tools. And then there's context now into understanding how they apply in the legal world for legal tasks, non-legal tasks. And through these small exercises, you get to practice in a safe way. You're not using real client fact patterns. You got fact patterns to practice. And then you're coming into a live session where you're talking about the differences. And so, yeah, we ran their summers through it at Oric, got a lot of good feedback. And we quickly took that feedback and iterated and created the next version of the course, which is now out. And we're deploying it for the rest of the firm at Oric. And now we have other firms who have, because of the article, have signed up and who are taking it. So very grateful for this journey, for this course. Yeah.
Absolutely. I imagine, or I hope, that the other firms will be lining up. But I mean, so much of what you're saying there is just so important. But it speaks to me also, I said at the beginning how you folks are really transforming legal education. And to me, the hallmarks, in a way, there are the kind of the industry collaborations or partnerships that are quite different. So, the fact that Oric would, as a law firm, partner with you as an education provider, but I think also the part that you spoke to that you don't still necessarily see, but is so important for quality purposes, is that you've got this team of people that are subject area specialists. You've got your education specialists, you've got, if you like, your tech specialists, and bringing all of those people together to really produce a quality product, I think, is really important as well. And I would put this all into the bucket of micro-credentialing. I know we go backwards and forth on that, or can sometimes get hung up in a definition about that. To me, it's more important to kind of look at the hallmarks on it, which is what I've said, but also that strong emphasis on experiential learning, that people are learning and doing, reflecting, iterating, learning and doing. Just seems to me, in the sort of education that you're doing, particularly the one that we're focusing on, has just been absolutely critical. So with those comments, I would love to hear your thoughts on, do you see the what you're doing, and I'm going to call it the micro-credentialing industry in this sort of education, as really increasingly going to take the lead and maybe even take people away from that more traditional, almost academic, theoretical approach to legal education? Where do you see all that sitting? Is it a balancing act? Is it one leaning more towards the other? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, great question. In the early days, we did a lot of experimenting in getting to product market fit, as I shared with you. There was a period where we were going after law firms and law schools, and we were trying to see who had the biggest pain and who would move the fastest and also be able to pay. It was interesting to see. Obviously, the law firms had the biggest pain, were able to move faster, believe it or not, and the willingness to pay was there, because we make things really efficient for law firms in terms of not using your billable hours to train this stuff. But in law school world, it was interesting because we know the pain is there in how they can prepare students to be ready for the real world. But unfortunately, as you know probably very well, that there's a lot of debate still happening inside these institutions. Should we keep doing what we've been doing because that's the way it should be and that's the way it's been? How far can we take it to practical? It's not our job to take it to practical. And we chose not to get involved in that debate.
Idea.
Yeah. You're right. Law school has been great in terms of helping you think like a lawyer, for sure, right? They're very, unfortunately, the more biased on litigation training, if anything, experiential, like moot court competition or mock trials, nothing really on the transactional world or the digital skills world of things. There are some schools that have been innovative where they do teach more practical stuff, or they get a little bit more experiential, but they have certain limits because they got to make sure people pass the bar.
Right.
That's right. And I remember Santa Clara was great because I had professors who'd bring in documents and we'd look at those things and talk about the real world and how it went down. And that was great, but they still had to get back to the business of preparing you for the bar. So it limited the number of times you would see these things. So in the early days, there were a few law schools that jumped on and partnered with us. We still have them as clients, even though we don't focus there. So Durham University in the UK is one of our clients. They've incorporated our programs inside their classroom. That's because they had a very innovative dean that was able to make things happen very quickly. We were also able to do that at University of Denver, Strum College of Law. Marty Katz there was a very entrepreneurial dean that helped move things, and we've been partnering with them. And believe it or not, we also serve at the top law school in Rio, in Brazil.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and they've incorporated our programs in their both law school and executive program. But yeah, we realized right away that the law schools was not our focus. But the concept of something after law school helping you get there is not new, right? We have bar associations, and we have these providers that back in the day, that was their job. If you look at PLI's initial charter and the founder there, their job was to teach practical skills. But somehow, some way, they kind of lost their way in terms of being innovative and delivering things in an experiential way, and also in leveraging technology, in my opinion. So the concept is there, but and also we have Thomson Reuters and these other know-how companies that have forms and tools to teach you know-how. They partner with subject matter experts. They have internal legal teams, so that this stuff is not new in leveraging external providers that are in the private sector to help you accelerate your learning curve. And so we basically have taken on the same sort of philosophy that there's an outside provider that can help you get to where you want to get to, because the apprenticeship model has kind of withered away. So, but you need a place to go. And in our opinion, the learning has to be taught by practitioners, for practitioners, but there has to be instructional designers involved to think about the pedagogy, right? And then we got to leverage technology, because there's so many ways. I saw this movie this weekend, came out, Gran Turismo. Have you heard of it?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I was just walked in and saw the movie. But there's a gamer who practiced race car driving in this simulation game for many years and had many hours of this training with a really good simulator. And the goal was to get him to learn to drive real race cars. And he was able to do it faster than others, because he had real training using technology. Yeah. So if we look at other verticals, they've made this paradigm shift in leveraging technology to accelerate training in an experiential way. Those are the pillars of our programs. I think that there are people who take our courses and they post their certificates on LinkedIn, and it's helped them in their journey. As long as these elements are there, where it's practitioner created, practitioner taught, there are subject matter experts involved, and there's an educational designer, and there's technology. Our courses are also CLE accredited. So yeah, it's, I don't know what you want to call it, whether we're micro credentialing or not, but we're helping.
We'll just call it fabulous. That sounds pretty good. Unfortunately, I have to wrap, but I don't want to without asking you this question, because I think it is a big one. I kind of look at the legal industry across the world, and I also look at the speed with which we're needing to learn the sort of programs that you're teaching, focused on digital literacy. And to me, this is digital literacy education at a scale we have literally never seen before. And there is an urgency, as you said or mentioned a couple of times, there is an urgency for us to learn and to be able to use these tools responsibly and well. How do you think, or how do you believe that we're going to achieve that? Because it's massive scale, and we need it yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's the innovative firms like Oric who are helping lead the way. I mean, that was a key part of our success with this. And the way they're looking at it is, if we remember the Intel Inside campaign, the reason Intel, they had this great marketing campaigns where they would basically to the consumers say, does your computer have this Intel chip inside? If it does, it's a good computer, right? So if we look at the legal industry, and basically if their clients are looking for the Intel Inside firms, right? That's where they'll gravitate towards. Who is using these technologies? Who's finding better ways to train their associates, to make their workflow more efficient? Those are the people that are going to have the Intel Inside. So I think the client is going to be an important driver to accelerate things. Oric's taken the position, and other firms too as well, that beyond the hype, there's a real need to use these tools to augment workflow. It's not going to replace lawyers. So let's get beyond the hype and the fear and all that. But there's a chasm here. There are a handful of these law firms who are talking to us that are early adopters for sure. But we're also talking to early majority and laggards who are kind of dabbling, and they're not there yet. And so it's going to take the early adopters making the move. But I agree with you. This is a period of time where, for the first time, we look at the AI tools and its usage and utilization. This is the first time that I think our industry, in my opinion, that legal industry is actually taking the lead compared to other industries. So we're in a unique position here, right? Because there's other industries that are still trying to figure out, but we've actually found some needs right away for its usage. So we can really take a leadership position. It's a pretty powerful position to be. This is sort of our time to finally, for once, to say the legal industry is not a laggard. We're using AI tools and we're making our workflow efficient. But, it's going to take more firms in that early adopter category.
And a huge shout out to Wendy Curtis and the team at Oric as well. I mean, they really are doing amazing work, and obviously found a exceptional partner with you as well, Abdi, and your team. So thanks for helping to bridge the chasm. I think it's probably fair to kind of comment as well. Absolute pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And just looking forward to seeing, reading, and I hope chatting again very soon about your continued success. Thanks, Abdi.
Absolutely. Thank you, Terry, for having me on the program. Enjoyed this conversation, and I look forward to continuing in this journey to catch up with each other. Absolutely.
Thank you.